call it. Tales. To humbler functions, awful power, I call thee. I myself commend unto thy guidance from this hour. Oh, let my weakness have an end. Give unto me, made lowly wise, the spirit of self-sacrifice. The confidence of reason give, and in the light of truth, thy bondman let me live. Hello, and welcome to Storytime with Isto. You've reached chapter 15 of Tarot Tales, a weekly gathering where I tell a little-known story based on a randomly drawn tarot card from the week prior. Those of you that were with me last week know that I drew the Devil, which is a particularly fitting card for this time of year, which we're recording the Tuesday before Halloween in 2021. That's for me in 70 years. So there are a lot of really beautiful things that I learned about the Devil card this week. And so I want to share with you some of the different bits of symbolism. So first and foremost, we've got this devil head at the top with the upside down pentagram, very spooky, very symbolic. But the head itself is from the character Baphomet, which is this concept of a devil that is both male and female, is good and evil, is half human, half satyr, or half goat, I should say. And so that's what we've got going on here with the kind of illusions. And then here we've got the man who's got the flame tail right here, and the woman with the grape tail. I don't know if you can see that right there. So we're going to come back to those grapes here in a little bit. But one of the things that we have is this idea of feeling trapped. However, you'll notice that the chains here are actually quite loose. And so these humans could potentially escape if they needed to. However, they are staying because they're, in the male sense, attracted to the kind of like fire and the vitriol, the anger, the power. And for the women, this kind of representation of like sensuousness, sumptuousness with the fruit, tied together to this creature, which is representing both good and evil. Now, the card upright, as you might imagine, has all of these kind of like evil connotations and overtones. This idea of addiction, mental health challenges, struggle, oppression, not being able to control the situation that you find yourself in. However, if we flip it, we find the opposite of those, and this becomes quite a happy card. The humans that are in this card make their way out. They find independence. They're reclaiming themselves. They're reclaiming their freedom. Excellent. So I love this card, and I have a long and storied history with religion. And so I am spending my time thinking about, I spent my time this week thinking about the different ways in which that manifests. And so before we get to the story, let's talk about some drinks. So I've got some paralleled symbolism here. We've got you kind of looking at the actual computers themselves, and instead of grapes, I put the bananas for those of you that I was able to lure with that little bit of marketing. All right, so for those of you that are drinking along with me, this week I have the Devil's Banana, which is a cocktail I've been promised is absolutely delicious by a good friend of mine. And then I have a cocktail called the Fallen Angel, which is a mocktail called the Fallen Angel for those of you that do not drink alcohol. So, whether or not you are watching this now or in the future, simply for being here, to you, I say a hearty cheers. Delicious. All right. Well, thank you, Kelsey. Okay, So, before we dive into the story tonight, a simple request, a simple ask. If you'd like to help me out, you can do so by liking this video, subscribing to this channel, or generally sharing this channel or any of this stuff in any way that you have access to. That would be tremendously helpful for me. The other thing that I want to say is that the text today references a number of religious figures, though the text itself is majoritively not practiced as a form of religion. And so I just wanted to state, no disrespect, just thought that this story was fascinating. Most people wouldn't have heard of it, and so I wanted to share it with you all. All right. Chapter 15. The Devil and the Book of the Watchers. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old the men of renown. Genesis 6:4. The Holy Great One will come forth from his dwelling, and the eternal God will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and appear in the strength of his might from the heaven of heavens. And all shall be smitten with fear, and the watchers shall quake, and great fear and trembling shall seize them unto the ends of the earth. The Book of Enoch, chapter 1, verses 3 through 6. It came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born beautiful daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after these beautiful daughters. They said to one another, "Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children." And Simjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, "I fear ye will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin." And they all answered him, saying, "Let us all swear an oath not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing." Then they sware all together and bound themselves in mutual imprecations upon it. They were 200 in all. And all together they took unto themselves wives. Each chose for himself one, and they began to defile themselves with the women. They taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And the women became pregnant, and they bore great giants, whose height was 300 ells. So an ell is an ancient, like, biblical measurement term, which was representing kind of the length of the tip of your finger down to your elbow, which I was looking up and looked like it was about 18 inches. That would translate for 3,000 ells to be 4,500 feet. That's not what I found elsewhere. So let's just say the variability in the actual height, but they're quite tall, in according to most of the texts that I found. And that's what's going on with this specific distortion in scale. And these angels, these watchers from heaven, taught men how to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony and the beautifying eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones and coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. One watcher taught enchantments and root cuttings, and another resolving of enchantments, and then more astrology, the constellations, the knowledge of the clouds, the signs of the earth, the signs of the sun, the course of the moon. These giants consumed all of the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, The giants turned against them and devoured all of mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish. I don't know how you sin against a fish, but I'd love to find out. And to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. And it was at this time that the angels looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and lawlessness. And they said to the Lord of Lords, Lord of Lords, God of gods, King of kings, thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou. And all things are naked and open in thy sight, and thou seest all things. Thou seest that the watchers have been doing wrong, who have taught unrighteousness on earth and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood, not righteousness. And now behold, the souls of those who have died are crying and making their suit to the gates of heaven. And thou dost not say to us what we are to do. And I really like the way this kind of comes across. Because just like a moment of empathy for this God, you know, like I have my entire life been in camp counselor adjacent positions, and I just imagine this conversation goes something along the lines of like, hey, so you know the other half of us that you hired to watch everything, well, they decided to go down and fuck everyone that is here. And all of those people gave birth to these giants, which are now murdering everyone. And so I just imagine it being like this exasperated God, which is why I chose this image for our God today, which I think is really beautiful, but also just looks kind of exhausted. He's also got kind of that marionette vibe. And then spoke the Great One to the angels, and first to Uriel. Go to Noah and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth and will destroy all that is on it, and instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And then the Lord said to Raphael, bind Simjaza hand and foot, make an opening in the desert, and cast him into the darkness. Place him upon rough and jagged rocks, cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face so that he may not see the light. And then he said to Gabriel, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of the watchers from amongst men. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. And then the Lord said to Enoch, Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers of heaven, who have left the high heaven, ye have wrought great destruction on earth, and ye shall have no peace nor forgiveness of sin. Alrighty, so let's take a quick pause for our first vocab word, which is Enoch. So this text that we are going from is actually from the book of Enoch, which is not a religious text, but an apocryphal text. When it's a little tricky. So it is not a part of many religions. It is a part of the canon of the Church of Ethiopia and Eritrea. And otherwise, it was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, so those of you that aren't familiar with the Dead Sea Scrolls, got this kind of like ropey Dead Sea Scroll right here. What's going on here is that this was an excavation that went underway in 1946 to 1956. And they found a number of apocryphal texts that either reinforced the existing texts that made up the religion of Judaism and Christianity, supplemented it with like other various stories, which is kind of what this one does. It touches on biblical figures. But not in the kind of traditional way. So they were kind of kept out of the religious texts, or they were kind of relatively new. Now, Enoch himself is a biblical figure, which is what I was referencing in the idea of kind of adding on to it. And so to kind of place him with characters you may know, Enoch's great, 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 great grandfather is Adam. So he was the seventh in line from Adam. His son was Methuselah, who you may know as being one of the oldest characters that existed in the Bible at 969 years old. And then Enoch was Noah of the flood's great grandfather. So that should place him in some kind of historical context for all of you. Now, the Dead Sea Scrolls themselves came up with a number of different texts. We've got the Book of Enoch, the Book of Giants, the Book of Jubilee, and some various other Genesis Apocrypha. So I pulled little bits from each of these, but it's mostly the Book of Enoch, and specifically the first book. There are like 5 different like major chapters that exist. One that provides like a solar calendar, one that's like another like wild dream sequence, if you're a big fan of Revelations. As I am, and that's what's going on. The only other thing that I have to tell you is that we've got Enoch here, who is kind of like ascending into the heavens, and that's because that's exactly what happened. So all of the other pre-deluge patriarchs that existed lived over 700 years, and Enoch's the only one that did not. And that's because he actually ascended to heaven before everyone else did. And this is interesting because he lived only apparently to like 375-ish, I'm going to say, and became allegedly what is called the Metrodon, which is like the voice of God. And so I don't know if you were wondering, I was wondering this. I was like, okay, I know the name Enoch from the Bible. What's he doing hanging out with the angels? So I don't know if this is like pre or post ascension, what's going on here, but he's about to go and yell at the Watchers, the angels that defiled all of the women and gave birth to the Nephilim. So let's see what happens. Then Enoch went and spoke to all the Watchers together. They were afraid and feared, and trembling seized them. And they besought him to draw up a petition all for them, that they might find forgiveness, and to read their petition in the presence of the Lord of heaven. Enoch did so. He took the petition, had a vision, and returned to the Watchers, saying, I wrote out your petition, and in my vision it appeared that it will not be granted, and that judgment has been finally passed upon you. From henceforth you shall not ascend into heaven, and you shall see the destruction of your beloved sons, the giants. They shall fall before you by sword. Wherefore have you left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, and taken to yourselves wives, and done like the children of earth, and begotten giants as your sons? And now the giants who are produced from the spirits of flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and women, because they have proceeded from them. You have been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not yet been revealed to you. And you knew worthless ones, and these, in the hardness of your hearts, you have made known to the women, and through these mysteries, men and women work much evil on earth. You go and tell these men and women, you have no peace. Okay, so a couple of different little bits here. So first and foremost, I love the idea that Enoch and God are pulling this. You didn't know all of the secrets. There's actually some like cooler secrets, some cooler magic that you weren't aware of. I just find that delightful. But let's take a quick minute to revisit our giants, these Nephilim, which every time I hear it or say it, I hear in my head the word heffalump. Okay, so Nephilim, which is the word for giant, although maybe not. It could be a translation error from what I found. It could represent this idea of making others fall or falling yourself, yada, yada, yada. It could be metaphorical, blah, blah, blah. But we've got giant, and it's widely translated as giant. It could be a translation error, whatever. But the idea that there are giants exists in all three of the major Western religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And it's pretty tightly tied to this concept of the flood, this idea that there would be a deluge that would wipe them out. Although sometimes the giants themselves are too tall and they survive the flood, and then God has to wipe them out in a different way. Most recounts that of the Nephilim's height that I could find indicated that they were around like 445 feet tall. And so I actually got out a ruler, and if this dot was a 6-foot man, this would be like the base of the thigh of the Nephilim that was going on here. A very sexy thigh that I've drawn here. So there's not much else to say here other than like this concept of the Nephilim has really fascinated religious scholars for years. And so there was a man named Colton Mather, who in 1701 proclaimed that he found bones of the Nephilim in Albany, New York, of all places, and was then later like disproved by paleontologists. I'm not sure if this was in his lifetime, but those bones were actually of a mastodon. Fascinating. The only other thing that I have to say about this is that there is this character called Mastema that I found, who is either a watcher, one of the angels that defiled women, or a Nephilim. And you just heard me say in this text, and now the giants who are produced from the spirits of flesh will be called evil spirits upon the earth. So there's this biblical theory that this Mastema character came around and was like, hey, God, before you throw this flood down, listen, don't kill all of them. Hey, keep 10% of them alive and just let us torment humans so you can see how much they love you. And God was like, cool, let's do that. And so the idea is that the spirits of the Nephilim actually became like demons that go in and do possessions and like pull people into evil, which I thought was super cool. We've got giants, we've got demons. What a great origin story coming right out of the apocrypha. All right, that's it I've got for Nephilim. Demons overtaking me. After Enoch reprimanded the watchers of heaven, the angels brought him to a mountain, the point of whose summit reached the heavens. So we need an Enoch. And where did our angels go? Where did my angels go? Here we are. Oh, no. There we go. And we need a Gabriel, because Gabriel's the one that's talking. Beautiful. Okie doke. So, Enoch was taken to a summit by the watchers. He recounted later, I saw the places of the luminaries and the treasures of the stars and of thunder, and I saw all the treasuries of all the winds. I saw how he had furnished with them the whole creation and the firm foundations of the earth. And I saw the cornerstone of the earth. Okay, so let's pause real quick because I want to talk about this vocab word named firmament, and basically the rest of this story is going to mean nothing if we don't cover some of these basics. So you may have heard of this term firmament before, but I certainly had not. And, or I guess I had heard of it, but I had no idea what it meant. So I'm going to pull up a globe. Which is, I should also say, slightly ironic because the idea of a firmament is that the world is actually quite flat. But so what I need you to do is think of like a snow globe. And so that's what we've got here with this firmament. And so this concept is that there's like a sphere. There's a globe that is made entirely of water. And in Genesis 1:6, there is the phrase, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters and let it divide waters from the waters. Okay, so now imagine a snow globe goes in here right at the equator, just inside the water. And that's kind of what the firmament is doing. Now we're going back to the 2D version here. So the firmament itself is dividing. It's got this like little air pocket with the earth down here at the bottom. It's dividing the waters from above from the waters below. And there's all of these really juicy stories about the water below being filled with like this Leviathan character that God then goes and kills. For another time. But some things to know about this kind of biblical cosmology is that this is part of the reason that they believed that the sky was blue, is because the water was piped in at the top. And in fact, they have this idea of portals or windows that you'll hear me reference here in a minute that are speckled all along this firmament, this kind of layer between the water and the heaven. So then you get past the water layer and then you've gotten yourself to heaven. And so the stars come in and out of these portals. These windows open up and then rain comes down. The wind goes through these. And then there are actual pillars that can be created by wind or can be created by the actual rock that are holding up this firmament. We've got these pillars that are holding up the ground beneath them. These are my firmament facts. So keep all of that in mind as we continue. I saw the cornerstone of the earth. I saw the four winds stretch out to the vaults of heaven and have their station between heaven and earth. These are the pillars of heaven. And I saw the paths of angels. I saw the end of the earth and the firmament of the heaven above. And I saw a place which had no heaven above and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There was no water upon it and no birds. It was a waste and horrible place. And Gabriel stepped forth from the angels and said, "This place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the angels of heaven. The stars which roll over the fire are they which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord. Here the angels who have connected themselves with women and defiled mankind shall stand till the end of the day of great judgment. And the women also of the angels who went astray shall become sirens." Okay, so the women shall become sirens was something that like flagged for me. So apparently in around the 4th century, when Christianity was overtaking paganism, there was a mistranslation that really commonly happened where the phrase for either jackals or owls was translated as sirens. So this is not a Christian endorsement of the Greek mythological siren. It's probably a mistranslation. And thence Enoch went to another place, and there was in it 4 hollow places, deep, wide, and very smooth. So I got this like little illustration for you. And Gabriel said unto him, "These hollow places have been created for the spirits of the souls of the dead to assemble. All the souls of the children of men shall assemble here. These hollow places have been made to receive them till the day of their judgment." Okay, so souls going into these little holes. Souls and holes. Enoch saw the spirit of a dead man making suit, and his voice went forth. And Gabriel explained, "This is the spirit which went forth from Abel, whose brother was Cain, who slew him. He makes a suit against him till his seed is destroyed from the face of the earth." Enoch asked regarding the hollow places, "Why is one separated from the other?" "Such a division has been made for the spirits of the righteous, and which there is the bright spring of water, and such has been made for the sinners. Here their spirit shall be set apart in the great pain till the great day of judgment." Okay, cool. So then the other thing that I think is really interesting about this, and probably one of the reasons why this is an apocryphal work, is the fact that there is actually some kind of like judgmental division in the afterlife, which doesn't actually appear in a lot of these apocryphal texts. So the fact that these souls would be burned for eternity is pretty uncommon, you know? Maybe a little taboo. Maybe we keep it out of the holy text. And thence Enoch went towards the west and came to the garden of righteousness and the tree of knowledge. That tree is in the height of a fir, and its leaves are like those of the carob tree, and its fruit is like the clusters of the vine. Very beautiful, and the fragrance of the tree penetrates afar. Let's talk a little bit about this tree of righteousness, shall we? So, height like a fir, Firs range from 33 to 260 feet, 262 feet tall, so quite a tall tree. Leaves are like the carob tree, which is just kind of like evergreen. They're like, like yay big. Well, maybe like half of that, like yay big. They're beautiful, fine. Your evergreen kind of tree. Its fruit are like the clusters of the vine, which sadly not bananas, but we've got grapes here that are showing up. And then the final sentence here is the fragrance of the tree penetrates afar. So I looked this up and I found that apparently the carob tree's fruit smells very strongly of semen. So I love the idea that the tree of good and evil is just like rank with the smell of semen. Somehow fitting to me. All right. And then Gabriel said, "This is the tree of wisdom which thy old father and mother hath eaten. They learned wisdom, their eyes were opened, and they were driven out of the garden." And here completes Enoch's tale. "And from thence I went toward the north ends of the earth, and there I saw 3 open portals open in the heaven. Through each of them proceed north winds. When they blow, there is cold, hail, frost, snow, dew, and rain. And from thence I went to the east towards the heavens, and there I saw 3 eastern portals of heaven open, and small portals above them. Through each of these small portals pass the stars of heaven and run their course to the west. And as often as I saw, I blessed the Lord of glory, who has wrought great and glorious wonders." Amen. The end. I hope you stuck with me through that. This lightly biblical text, this lightly religious text. The reason that I picked this for the devil is because I loved the idea of the fallen angel, and I love the idea of kind of like sexuality and lustfulness, which is inherent in this card as well. And so I thought this kind of like fallen watcher angel story, which I had never heard of, was like a perfect fit for this kind of whatever this thing is that I'm doing. So I hope you enjoyed that as well. My gratitude for this week, as I was thinking about these early concepts of the universe, these concepts of the firmament, goes to science and scientists and creatives and artists. The kind of balance of both of these things, just trying to make meaning out of the world. I feel very grateful for that. And those of you that may be looking for a clue, the clue is you're either new or haven't been paying attention. Go back to the juniper tree where this same clue is mentioned. For next week, we have the 9 of Swords, which is this beautiful card that represents basically all of my anxiety. So my mental health encapsulated in this. I've got a couple of different stories. I'm still narrowing it down, but I'm excited to share whatever of the 3 that I have narrowed it down to with you next week. I hope you'll join me. And with that, I believe it's time to say goodbye. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you treat yourself with love and respect. May you continue to grow and find the strength to persevere through the painful parts of growth. May you find inspiration all around you. And may you find peace. Thank you for joining me this week. I'll see you next week. Happy Halloween.